Hi friends, Itheria here. Today, I want to talk about the meta in Final Fantasy XIV and why I think it's irrelevant for the majority of the player base. So, first of all, what do I mean by meta? Well, every time we hit a new Savage raid tier, especially if there have been job changes recently, we see certain jobs being considered better, whereas others are treated as utter trash that should never be allowed into your party. The latter half of that is what I have a big problem with. I'm not exactly sure how this meta gets spread throughout the more casual or mid-core groups, but somehow it seems like it does. For example, people hear that Machinist is bad and they decide not to let Machinists into their statics. Even Party Finder parties will uncheck the Machinist box before posting the raid. Now, you might be thinking, Itheria, there are numbers to prove that Machinist is weaker than other jobs. Well, my friend, there are also numbers to prove that a red mage, samurai, monk, ninja, whatever, who doesn't know how to play their job is worse than a machinist that does. People like to huff and haw all the time about the balance in this game, but as someone who grew up playing MMOs, y'all don't know how good you have it. I'm not saying Final Fantasy XIV is perfect, but has there ever been any MMO that ever could perfectly balance their jobs? What I'm really saying is this. If you are not a world first raider or a speedrunner, then you can absolutely clear every single Savage tier with any party composition, including those that include the jobs that are considered the weakest or lowest DPS. Similarly, there are always preferences for which tanks are better and which healers are better, but it really doesn't matter. As long as you have one of each role in the party to get that extra 5% DPS buff, exactly which jobs are in the party just doesn't really matter. You should play what you want to play. The average group of raiders will spend a few months doing these raids and gearing up throughout that time via the actual raid drops as well as tombstone gear. That's why I'm saying that the meta doesn't really apply to you if you're not a world first raider trying to clear every single fight in a week. You will get stronger naturally as you gear up and progress through the raids. And this is going to sound mean, but I think it's an honest truth that has to be said. If you cannot clear the raids with any group composition, it's not because the jobs themselves are too weak. It is because your group is lacking in some way. Your group could be struggling with uptime if players simply stop DPSing every time they have to move to dodge. Maybe your group needs to work on its buff window. Not only do you want everyone's buffs and strongest skills to be up around the same time, but you also want to be sure to be using those buffs at a time where you're actually able to hit the boss and he's not about to disappear. Similarly, you want to be using tinctures during those buff windows when you can. Most fights have 2 to 3 optimal tink windows. So you may be thinking, hey, if my group is struggling with DPS, wouldn't it actually be better for our party to use the meta jobs? Wouldn't that help prop up our DPS since we're using the jobs that have been deemed the highest DPSers? And the answer to that question is maybe. The reason I say maybe is because while the logic of that question makes sense and thus certainly could be a possibility, we once again need to talk about execution. What makes you think that the members of your party, who are already struggling in some way as to not be able to meet DPS checks, are going to be any better at playing a new job, especially one they may have never touched? It may be better to use tools like ACT and FF logs to get a sense of what the group is struggling with and work towards fixing it, whether that be practicing rotations, fixing buff windows, or improving uptime. So honestly, what I want to say with this video is that people should play whatever they want to play. And if you're a meta snob, but you're not a world first raider or a speedrunner, stop. It's so silly to see casual and mid-core groups clinging to this when it doesn't matter for them. It just creates a culture where people can't enjoy Savage on the job they want to play, which I honestly think hurts everyone. You could end up turning away skilled players who would be an asset to your group all because they play a job that Reddit decided isn't good anymore? I'm sorry, it's just really foolish. So I think that's all I have to say on the subject. Play what you want. As always, please consider leaving a sacrifice for Lord Algorithm in the form of a like, comment, share, or subscribe. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!